Arcade here from ChannelFrederator. To commemorate the new Pokemon games releasing soon, we're bringing you all of our Pokemon videos packed into one super long video. 107 facts, cartoon conspiracy, and way more. So let's get started.
You want to be the very best like no one ever was? Well, the Pokemon world is full of challenges, and if you face them all, you just may be a Pokemon master. But is it worth it? I'm Kyle G, and today on ChannelFrederator, we're going to talk about what separates the Poke champions from the Poke casuals, as we count down the top 14 reasons you might not want to be a Pokemon master. Number 14, the constant challenges. Trying to take a peaceful stroll? Not if any nearby trainers have anything to say about it. No Pokemon master can turn down a challenge, so don't count on a quiet night out. It just might turn into a battle of fully trained fighting machines, or a less epic head-to-head between hardening Metapods. If you catch eyes with someone sharing that fighting spirit, then it's time to prove your worth. Number 13, Pokemon poachers and gangs. Pokemon gangs are always coming up with an evil scheme, and you can't just stand by and let it happen. This could include protecting legendaries from the abusive hands of Team Galactic, stopping the climate-changing annex of Team Aqua and Team Magma, or thwarting the thieving plans of Team Rocket, even when their obsessions are a little odd.
It's a Pika-Palooza!
We're at the Pika our powers.
You can say that again, Jez.
Number 12, dealing with type advantages. Pokemon battles are a constant game of rock, paper, scissors, and being mindful of that is important when you want to be a master. So, if you start with fire, you might want to teach
Solar Beam to deal with water, ground, or rock.
But if they switch to a dragon type, you should switch to a fairy type. Unless you use Iron Tail, then you can switch to steel type to counter that. But it better pack a steel wing, take care of those fighting types, and...
Whew. Man, that's a lot. And on top of those, you have to watch for tricky trainers, like using arena sprinklers against your rock type, or that Rhydon horn as a lightning rod. Number 11, don't plan on any vacations. Even a cruise on a luxury ship is an excuse for a Pokemon master to take a break. Before you know it, it turns into an all-out brawl between peers. And if that's not enough, chances are one of those aforementioned villainous teams may come along and break up the party. Forget about relaxing by the pool, a trainer is always on the job. Number 10, legendaries. With these godlike Pokemon flying around, causing havoc over some petty squabbles, what the heck are you supposed to do about it? Well, you better figure it out, future master. So sometimes you have to deal with the Pokemon poachers who are just pushing their buttons. Who can blame Zapdos' rage, getting shoved into a cage like that? Okay, maybe it could release its anger in a more constructive way. Number 9, tough love. You are spending every moment with your Pokemon team, so those bonds of friendship are bound to grow, right? Well, when that comes with a hug from 66 pounds of toxic acid, it gets a little dangerous. Is Victory Bell your toughest fighter? Then watch out, you'll be loved like a Venus flytrap loves its prey. Number 8, paparazzi. Fans don't sound bad until they are a constant factor of your day-to-day life. If the all-day challenges weren't enough, try sneaking up on a rare Pokemon with someone shoving a camera in your face. Some people seem to embrace it. Alright, Gary, good luck hunting for Pokemon with that convertible and gaggle of cheerleaders following you around. Number 7, the endless gym battles. Maybe it isn't so bad to get to the Pokemon League in one region, earning 8 badges there, but a Pokemon Master doesn't stop at one region. So you just completed Hoenn? Well, head on out to Sinnoh, or Kanto, or Johto, or Kalos, or Unova, or... well, you get the picture. Better have some frequent flyer miles saved up because you're gonna have some traveling to do, buddy. Number 6, contests. Thought all there was to this Pokemon training thing was battles, huh? Well, think again. Turn that Mamoswine from beast to beauty and gear up to stun, shock, and awe during a Pokemon contest. Being a master at contests takes a lot of time, love, and a massive amount of poffins and candy to max out your Pokemon's individual style. And don't think you're let off the hook from the razzle-dazzle of contests. You're required to look like just as much of a diva as your Pokemon. Number 5, feeding Pokemon. Sure, maybe you can have your local professor take care of a lot of your Pokemon eating needs, but the party you have with you needs a healthy diet too. Now imagine having to feed 6 additional mouths a day, and I am not so sure the pellets you feed Baniri are going to satisfy that mad hungry Gyarados. And if you have a Snorlax, well...
Snorlax, He's sleeping, Pokemon. Snorlax isn't satisfied unless it eats at least 900 pounds of food per day.
Number 4. Expensive. Being a Pokemon master isn't exactly priceless. In addition to the previously mentioned Pokefood expenses, you have to buy Pokeballs for every one of those Pokemon when trying to catch them all. On top of that, you have potions, camping supplies, cooking tools, and much, much more. Hope you saved well before starting your journey. I know when I was 10, I had maybe $6 to my name. Number 3, disobedient Pokemon. Have an awesome Charizard, but can't use them without crisping all the hair on your head? Or an electric mouse that charges you like a cell phone? You need to crack that whip, friend. Being a master takes a fine balance of tough discipline and loving friendship, so keep working on it, unless you want burn marks on your entire wardrobe. Number 2, your rival. That smug look, that condescending attitude, those too cool hairstyles, you just want to punch them. But how would you test yourself without a rival pushing you at every turn? It may be oh so satisfying when you finally beat them, but the mental torture you endured along the way will last a lifetime. Number 1, catch 'em all. The name of the game, the main part of the quest, the light at the end of the long, long tunnel. Completing the Pokedex and finally catching them all. Now maybe back in 1995 that wasn't so bad, a quick 150 and you're done, easy. But now we are talking 721. Let me say that again, 721. If you caught one a week, that would still take over 13 years, and by then, how many more would be discovered? And I doubt getting those legendaries would be too easy to collect either. So in the end, is it worth it? And with new Pokemon discovered all the time and regions yet to explore, can you ever truly be a Pokemon master? Who am I kidding? This list doesn't dissuade you one bit, does it? Go get 'em, champion.
When it comes to Pokemon conspiracies here at Frederator, we've just gotta catch 'em all. In the original Pokemon animated series, Ash Ketchum and Pikachu are the best of friends. But is it possible that Ash's Pikachu isn't his original Pikachu? In the very first episode of the Pokemon show, Ash Ketchum is given his very first Pokemon, a very reluctant and stubborn Pikachu. This Pikachu actually rejects Ash completely. He doesn't listen to him, he's aggressive, and actually tries to electrocute Ash every time he tries to control him. In the show, this typically means that the Pokemon's level is above the trainer's badges. This is actually made canon in the show when Charizard reaches a higher level and begins to disobey Ash. So why was Pikachu disobeying Ash at the beginning? It could be that that Pikachu was already at a higher level. And this actually starts to make sense if you look at the Spearow fight in the first episode. Pikachu uses a powerful electric attack that wipes out an entire flock of Spearow in one move. This move implies that Pikachu already knows how to use Thunderbolt or Thunder, which are higher level moves. So where did this adorable Pikachu that we all know as Ash's best friend come from, if he's a total dick in the first episode? In the second episode of the show, Pokemon Emergency, Pikachu is brought to the Viridian City Pokemon Center to be healed. Team Rocket crashes through the roof of the Pokemon Center, as they usually do, and attempts to wreak havoc. To fend them off, Ash's sick Pikachu jumps in some sort of doggy pile of other Pikachus in an attempt to charge up together and defeat Team Rocket. Pikachu returns from the group, perfectly healed and ready to fight with Ash. The only indication it's the same Pikachu is a contraption on its head and the willingness to cooperate with Ash. After the Pokemon Center battle, Pikachu has a completely different personality. He's friendly, eager to battle, and totally loves Ash. Basically how any Pokemon should act when raised by a trainer. Also, in the first episode of the show, the Pokedex said that wild Pokemon are jealous of trained Pokemon owned by a trainer. So maybe it's possible that one of the Pikachus from the center that was only used as a power source had the motivation to switch places with Ash's original unmotivated Pikachu, who is really just more interested in being left alone. In the rest of the show, Pikachu notably rejects going into his own Pokeball, ever, even when he's at the point of near death. It could be stubbornness, but it could also be because that is the original Pikachu's Pokeball. Every Pokeball is coded to a specific Pokemon. So maybe it's that Pikachu isn't just rejecting its Pokeball, it's actually just incapable of entering that Pokeball because it belongs to a different Pikachu, Ash's original Pikachu. So what if Pikachu didn't just have a complete 180 personality change, and he's actually just a regular Pokemon who took the opportunity to journey alongside a trainer as it's always dreamed? I am far from being a Pokemon expert, but I think this theory brings up some really interesting points. In the first episode, Professor Oak warns Ash that this Pikachu has some problems, like a personality defect. But of course, Ash doesn't listen and takes him anyway. So what about Pikachu's total personality switch? Could it be that it's an entirely new Pikachu? Or is it just that Pikachu OG was so moved by Ash trying to save him that he decided to change his ways? Is it possible that in all the confusion, with a multitude of seemingly identical Pikachus getting mixed together in a skirmish, that Ash unknowingly took the wrong Pikachu when he left? When you take his new Pokemon's attitude adjustment into consideration, he probably chalked it up as good karma for saving the day and kind of just went with it. All the while, his jerkwad starter might still be toiling away in a hospital, generating energy in a very cruel twist of fate. Serves him right if he didn't want to be in Ash's squad. Honestly guys, this theory could go either way. It's up to you guys as Pokemon fans to choose what you believe. But as for me, I'm giving this theory 3.5 Pokeballs out of 5. In the comments, let me know what you guys thought of this conspiracy and if you agree or disagree with how I rated it. Subscribe to ChannelFrederator and I'll see you guys next week.
I want to be the very best like no one ever was. Hey, we have 107 facts about Pokemon that you need to know. From the awesome TV show to the super addictive video games. Let's go. Number 1. Let's start off with something everyone should know. Pokemon is short for pocket monsters. It's not a translation of anything, it's just shortened. Number 2. The original concept behind Pokemon was coming up with an artificial form of insect collecting that would allow children living in cities who would otherwise be unable to catch critters to participate in the hobby. When he was young, the creator of Pokemon would collect bugs. Number 3. Despite its relatively young age, Pokemon is the second best-selling video game franchise of all time, right behind Mario. Number 4. In the Pokemon manga, Ash's original companion was Clefairy. When it moved to television, Clefairy was swapped out with Pikachu because TV marketers decided the latter was, quote, cuter and more yellow. He is indeed more yellow. Number 5. All Pokemon have a Japanese name. Some are the same as their English counterparts, like Pikachu's, but others are completely different. Bulbasaur is Fushigi-dane, which translates to, isn't it strange? It's also a pun that can mean mystery bulb. Haunter's Japanese name is Ghost, and Drowsy's is Sleeper, which is getting a bit literal, but our favorites may have to be Magby, which is Booby, and Magmar, which is Boober. Number 6. The episode Beauty and the Beach was censored in the US for depicting a bikini-clad James with rather realistic-looking fake boobs. They were inflatable, guys. Number 7. One infamous episode, Den no Senshi Porygon, had strobing red and blue lights that caused more than 600 children in Japan to have seizures. The episode has never been aired or released since. Number 8. Porygon and its evolutions have never made a major appearance in the show since the aforementioned episode's airing, which isn't very fair when you realize it was Pikachu who caused the strobing, but no one hates Pikachu. Number 9. Pokemon actually holds the Guinness World Record for most photosensitive epileptic seizures caused by a TV show, at 750 seizures triggered by a single event. Yikes! Now there's a record that nobody should break. Number 10. A new species of Pterosaur, discovered in 2014, was named after the Pokemon Aerodactyl. Number 11. Many of the Pokemon's growls and roars are recycled sounds from various kaiju in the Godzilla franchise. Number 12. Storyboard artist Masamitsu Hidaka revealed that Ash's father is on his own Pokemon journey, and would be explored if they decided to further Ash's development, which is probably never gonna happen. I mean, he's Been a 10-year-old boy for like 15 years. Number 13. There's a fan theory out there that the sprites for Butterfree and Venomoth were actually switched by accident, and developers just went with it. Looking at their evolutions, it does make sense. Number 14. The original voice actor for Ash also voices Ash's mom. We'll chalk up the vocal similarities to some strong genes. Number 15. The original voice actors for Misty and Brock also played Jesse and James. Number 16. There was gonna be a Pokemon based on Dolly, the clone sheep, but was scrapped because the creators were worried about the controversy. Number 17. All of the early games include unused data for battling Professor Oak. He can be fought by exploiting glitches and is actually much stronger than the champion. Makes you wonder if he was gonna be the final boss. Number 18. Girafarig's name is the same forwards and back, and so is its original design. That's an anagram, I believe, or something else. Number 19. According to Takeshi Shudo, a director for the anime, an unused plot for the Johto League was going to reveal more information about Ash's father and end the series with Pikachu and Meowth leading a Pokemon revolt against their trainers. I don't know about you guys, but Pokemon Braveheart sounds pretty cool, actually. Number 20. Game developers wanted to create a Mega Flygon for Pokemon X and Y, but Ken Sugimori had artist's block and they ended up dropping the idea. Have they looked at DeviantArt or Tumblr? Because I'm pretty sure artists have been coming up with cool fan designs of the guy for years. Number 21. The card game was banned in Saudi Arabia for a while because it, quote, promoted gambling and Zionism? Number 22. In the first games, there's a glitch you can exploit to catch Mew. Number 23. This was actually snuck in by one of the game's programmers, and was intended to be an inside joke for other developers, but Pokemon fans quickly found out about it, and Mew became an official Pokemon in the game universe. Number 24. That weird Pokemon Wobbuffet is actually an homage to a Japanese comedian, Sanpei Hayashia. Their mannerisms are practically the same. Number 25. The Pokedex entries for Wobbuffet imply its cute googly-eyed tail is actually its brain, and that the rest of it is a decoy that can endure any attack. Number 26. Rhydon was the first Pokemon ever created, even before the concept was called Pokemon. Number 27. Satoshi Tajiri, the creator of Pokemon, has a favorite, and it ain't Pikachu. Surprise, it's the swirly water-type Poliwhirl. Number 28. The Pokemon franchise has released 39 different manga series since 1997, and counting. Number 29. The original manga series, Pokemon Adventures, has 52 volumes and has been in circulation since 1997, and it's still going. Satoshi Tajiri has said, "This is the comic that most resembles the world I wanted to convey." Sounds like it's worth a read. It actually is. It's awesome. Number 30. Arcanine was originally supposed to be a legendary Pokemon alongside Zapdos and Articuno, but was switched out with the Firebird Moltres. Number 31. Looks like they took a cue from their past ideas when they created Entei, a fire-type legendary dog. Do you think Arcanine looks at Entei and sees everything he was meant to be? Number 32. Meowth is based on Satoshi Tajiri's own pet cat, and its design is inspired by a common Japanese figurine called Maneki Neko, or Lucky Cat. Maneki Nekos are depicted holding an ancient coin, or koban, like the one found on Meowth's head. Number 33. The Pokemon Azurill has a slight chance of changing genders when it evolves. Number 34. No two Spinda are the same. The developers of the games created over 4 billion spot patterns to ensure that each one is unique. Number 35. Poliwag's swirly stomach is actually inspired by the real-life fact that tadpoles have visible spiraled intestines. I've seen it. It's disgusting. Number 36. Pikachu and Meowth were intentionally designed to be natural enemies. They're based on a mouse and a cat, and their Pokedex numbers are 25 and 52 respectively. Number 37. When Paras evolves into Parasect, the Pokedex entries state that the parasitic mushroom on its back grows and takes over the host body. It's a zombie Pokemon. Number 38. The punching Pokemon Hitmonchan is based on Jackie Chan, while the kicking Pokemon Hitmonlee is based on Bruce Lee. Number 39. In the Japanese version, however, their names are Ebiwalar and Sawamular, which could be a reference to kickboxer Tadashi Sawamura and boxing champ Hiroyuki Ebihara. Who knows? Number 40. The infamously pointless Pokemon move Splash is a mistranslation. It's actually Hop in Japanese. That's why the move doesn't actually splash water. Number 41. The conceptual predecessor to Pokemon was called Capsule Monsters. It had some of the same dynamics, but was overall very different. Number 42. While Pokemon has monsters based on real-life animals, Capsule Monsters had monsters based on, well, monsters. The original designs were inspired by dinosaurs like the T-Rex and kaiju like Godzilla. Number 43. British judo athlete Ashley Mackenzie was inspired to learn the sport when, as a kid, a bully stole his Charizard card and he wanted to fight back. Wait, Ashley's a boy's name? Okay, it's fine. Ashley Angel from O-Town is a boy. Number 44. Even though Ash wants to, quote, catch them all, he's only caught around 80 different kinds of Pokemon so far. No biggie. There's only like 7 to 100 billion more. Number 45. In 2000, a psychic sued Nintendo, claiming the Pokemon Kadabra was based off of him. He asserted that Kadabra shared his spoon-bending abilities, looked like him, and even had a similar name. Anyone that thinks they look like that Pokemon and is willing to sue over likeness really needs to reassess their priorities. Number 46. All of the Pokemon professors are named after trees. There's Oak, Helm, Birch, Rowan, Juniper, and Sycamore. Number 47. The design of the Dream Eater Pokemon Drowsy is inspired by tapirs. In Japanese lore, tapirs love to eat dreams and nightmares. Number 48. It's thought that in the Pokemon universe, human language evolved from specific Pokemon battle cries, and the alphabet was learned from the Pokemon unknown. Number 49. Coughing and wheezing were originally going to be called Nye and Law, named after two smog-filled cities. Number 50. Despite Pokemon being one of the longest-running series to date, Ash is still 10 years old. Number 51. Ash has never gone past the semifinals of the Pokemon League. Number 52. According to Lieutenant Surge, there was once a great war where Pokemon were used like weapons. Electric Pokemon saved his life by paralyzing his enemies, and yet we've never gotten a video or anything for this. Number 53, Pokemon are commonly eaten by humans, especially Magikarp, or Little Fishy, never had a chance. Number 54, following up on that last fact, Farfetch'd were almost hunted to extinction by humans, because they make a delicious meal. They even come with veggies. Number 55, the rarest Pokemon card is the Illustrator card. 39 were distributed, and it's unknown how many remain. It serves no purpose in the game except maybe to give the owner bragging rights. Don't worry though, it can be yours for a cool $100,000. Number 56. The entire Pokemon franchise is worth $24 billion. Meowth would lose his mind. Number 57. It seems 100% Pokemon escape-proof, but the Master Ball actually has a slight chance of failing. Number 58. Some of the regions in the Pokemon world are based on real-life locations in Japan. Number 59. The Pokemon Gold and Silver games were made by just 4 programmers. Number 60. Due to the controversy over Jinx's original design, the skin color was changed to purple. Number 61. Although it isn't canon, there's a popular theory that Cubones are actually baby Kangaskhans, whose mothers have died. Number 62. Ekans is snake backwards, and Arbok is cobra backwards. Number 63. Former Pokemon director and storyboard artist Masamitsu Hidaka has said that Brock's removal during the Orange Islands arc was because the staff worried he would be viewed as a racist stereotype because of his eyes. Eventually, they realized no one cared what Brock looked like, and fans missed and enjoyed his character, bringing him back. Number 64. The term Eeveelutions was originally a fan-made word, but has become the official term for Eevee's crazy family tree. Number 65. Doduo, a Pokemon inspired by flightless birds, can actually fly. Number 66. In the first episode of the anime, Ash spotted a mystical unknown bird flying under a rainbow. In the second season, it was revealed to be the legendary bird Ho-Oh. One of Ho-Oh's Pokédex entries states that it will reveal itself before a pure-hearted trainer by shining its bright rainbow-colored wings. Guess Ash is pure-hearted and deserving of the fact that, quote, those who see Ho-Oh are promised eternal happiness. Number 67! The trio of legendary birds are named after Spanish numbers. Let's count them off. Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Number 68! Slowbro's Pokédex entry states that if the shelter on its tail is removed, it will turn back into a Slowpoke, making it the only Pokemon that can devolve. Number 69, Raikou is the only legendary Pokemon that Ash has yet to encounter. Number 70, Heatran is the only legendary Pokemon that can have a gender. Number 71, Lickilicky is the only normal type Pokemon that can learn the move Explosion. Number 72, despite multiple appearances, no Slowpoke has ever managed to execute an attack in the anime. Number 73, Giovanni's sidekick Persian is a shiny Pokemon. Number 74, that weird Pokemon Mr. Mime, it can be male or female, but it's still called Mr. Mime. Number 75, in 2008, Japanese scientists discovered a new protein and named it Pikachurin because of its compatibility with electricity. Number 76, Mew was the first trademark for the franchise, even before they nabbed the word Pokemon. Priorities. Number 77, Pokemon Gold and Silver were planned as the final games in the franchise, but its success helped persuade the creators to make more. Number 78, Meowth was almost a playable character in the first Smash Bros. Number 79, in the small South Pacific island of Niue, Pikachu was printed on their 2001 currency to celebrate Pokemon. Number 80. One of the changes made to the anime when it was broadcast in the US was kinda silly. It was Brock's favorite snack. His onigiri, aka rice balls, were changed to, quote, jelly-filled donuts, so US audiences would better understand what they were. I didn't know what rice balls were, but I would have got it. Number 81. In 2011, Herman Cain, a politician running for president, unintentionally quoted lyrics from the, quote, Power of One song found in Pokemon 2000.
Life can seem impossible, but it's never easy when there's so much on the line.
He thought the lines were from a song played at the 2000 Olympics. Love you, Herman Cain. Number 82. The legendary Pokemon, the Swords of Justice, were based on the Three Musketeers. Kabalion is Athos, Terrakion is Porthos, and Virizion is Aramis. The Pokemon Keldeo is inspired by the youngest, more inexperienced musketeer, D'Artagnan. Number 83, Game Freak, the Japanese video game developer behind Pokemon, started out as a small game enthusiast magazine in the early 1980s. I wish that was still real. Number 84, Brock, known for his signature closed eye look, has actually opened his eyes 3 times in the anime for laughs. Number 85, the only Pokemon games where you meet the main character's father are the Ruby and Sapphire games. He's actually Norman, a gym leader you'll eventually have to defeat. Number 86, Gold and Silver almost had skateboards in the game. Wouldn't that have been rad? Number 87, Pokemon Snap was originally going to be a photography game with no Pokemon in it. They were added in the final phases of development. Thank God, that is the best game they probably have made in a long time. Number 88, Game Freak once made a game for Sega. This pre-Pokemon game was called Pulseman and also featured an electricity-powered hero. Number 89, the electric Pokemon Rotom is actually an homage to the Pulseman. Number 90, Ash's Japanese name is Satoshi, a reference to the creator of Pokemon, Satoshi Tajiri. Number 91, meanwhile, Ash's rival Gary Oak goes by Shigeru, a friendly tribute to Shigeru Miyamoto, Tajiri's mentor and friend, and creator of Mario, Zelda, and many other games. Number 92! Despite being a fictional universe, there's a lot of real-world references in the realm of Pokemon. For example, Mew was discovered in South America. Does this mean we can expect a new South American-inspired Pokemon region? Number 93. I choose you, Pikachu! Japan selected Pikachu as its mascot for the 2014 World Cup. Number 94. The shape of the move Fire Blast isn't a stick figure. It's actually a kanji symbol for fire. Number 95. Pokeballs were inspired by the design of Gashapon capsules, which are plastic devices used to hold vending machine toys. Number 96. Each Pokemon game has glitches, but the most famous glitch of them all is the Missing No from the original games. It exists because the developers planned for around 190 Pokemon, but only used space for 151, leaving empty data in the game. Number 97. Missing No can't be evolved, but it can appear as a fossil, a ghost, or weird matrix-looking code, and as a hollow-pitched battle cry. Playing it in battle will glitch out the game. Number 98. Ash got his first 2 badges without actually defeating the gym leaders. Number 99. Mew was the only Pokemon to be left out of the original Pokerap. Number 100, Pokemon the first movie was actually set to be the finale of the series, but then it got renewed and became, quote, the first movie. Number 101, in the first movie, commentary reveals that Misty's please no reaction to Ash's death was at one point jokingly ad-libbed by Rachel Lillis as my bike, as she tried to find a proper 2-syllable reaction. Number 102, speaking of which, did Ash ever replace Misty's bike? The answer is no, but Nurse Joy did repair and return it to her after Ash competed in the Silver Conference. Number 103, the angsty and dramatic Mewtwo in the first movie is voiced by Masachika Ichimura, who played the Phantom in the Japanese adaptation of Phantom of the Opera. 2 tragic peas in a pod. Number 104. The monster with the highest potential attack or defense power out of all the Pokemon is Shuckle? No way! No! Number 105. Remember the mysterious GS ball? Well, its contents are still unknown. Director Masamitsu Hidaka revealed that it was meant to contain Celebi, but after the Pokemon became the star of the 4th movie, it was felt that this would be redundant, and plans were dropped. The ball was left with Kurt in hopes that fans would forget about it, but fans never forget, especially Pokemon fans. Number 106. In the episode Ash Catches a Pokemon, Ash sees Pidgeotto eating a worm. That worm is the first non-Pokemon animal seen in the show. Number 107. Pikachu's name is the combination of 2 Japanese onomatopoeias. Pika Pika is the sound of sparkling, and Choo Choo is the sound of squeaking.
Pokémon is one of the world's most expansive and popular franchises, so how could 107 measly little facts ever be enough? It couldn't. There's just too much awesomeness to cover in this weird and wacky world. So we've got even more facts coming at ya. Tim from ChannelFrederator is going to count off the 107 more facts you should know about Pokemon, and whether you're a die-hard fan or just wondering what all the fuss is about, we've got a little something for everyone. Let's get started.
Number 1. Pokemon was created by game designer Satoshi Tajiri. Tajiri's adoration for video games began when he cut a lot of high school classes to go play games like Space Invaders. Number 2. The name Hoenn comes from the Japanese characters Ho, which means rich, and En, which means bond. Developers wanted to make sure the area's countryside looked especially rich for Ruby and Sapphire. Number 3. Game Freak, the company that eventually released the first Pokemon games, started out as Tahiri's fanzine expressing his love for video games. The zine wasn't widely circulated, but gained enough attention to attract future collaborators, most notably Ken Sugimori. Number 4. It took Tahiri and company 6 years to develop the Pokemon games. Game Freak even came very close to going bankrupt. Luckily for Planet Earth, this did not happen, and I'm pretty sure Game Freak's doing quite well now. Number 5. To give an idea of just how humble these beginnings were, the vast majority of development on the first Pokemon games were done by only 9 people. Number 6. Ken Sugimori is responsible for the designs of all 151 original Pokemon. He still oversees the designs and productions of the Pokemon world. So basically, this is the guy you have to thank for how Pokemon looks. Number 7. The first few seasons of Pokemon were animated the old-fashioned way, namely hand-painted cells. That's right, all that Pikachu lightning bolt action was painted by hand. And the cells are actually bigger than what you see on screen, meaning there was much more detail to each frame than appeared in the final product. Number 8, however, Pokemon isn't immune to trends in technology, so the series has gone digital since August 2002. Number 9, in 2013, the Black and White series revisited some of the classic scenes from the original anime when Ash's Charizard was reintroduced. However, the scenes were redone in Pokemon's new style, so the difference between hand-painted and digital became readily apparent, especially in regards to flame attacks. Number 10, even Ash himself looks a little different. It's a minor difference, but if you look Ash straight in the eyes, you'll notice he lost his brown irises, so his eyes are now just black. Number 11, Ash has never caught a fairy, steel, ghost, or psychic type Pokemon. And don't say Haunter, Ash doesn't actually catch the Haunter. Number 12, despite her son's love for Pokemon and his vast collection, Ash's mom Delia only has one Pokemon, Mr. Mime. Number 13, she was also a former student of Professor Oak, so maybe she's an unsung Pokemon hero. How awesome would that be? Number 14, there's a popular fan theory that somehow Ho-Oh is Ash's father, which is weird. And when this proposition was presented to storyboard artist Masamitsu Midaka, he erupted in laughter, so that's a pretty definitive no. Number 15, there was an episode that features Ash in the Safari Zone that was banned in the United States for the gratuitous use of handguns. This means, in the English dub, Ash never officially visited the Safari Zone, a major feature in the video games. Also, we feel we should mention the episode includes Meowth doing an interrogation with a Hitler mustache. Number 16, because Coco was later promoted to the Elite Four, that would also make him the first Elite Four member that Ash ever met, even if he hadn't quite made it there yet. Number 17, due to the Tohoku earthquake and Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011, a 2-parter episode entitled Team Rocket vs. Team Plasma has been indefinitely postponed, possibly because it looks like the special has plenty of buildings collapsing and explosions, which might strike a chord. Number 18, this wasn't the first episode to be skipped over due to natural events. Battle of the Quaking Island, in which wish caches cause an earthquake, was was also pulled in 2004 after a real-life earthquake occurred 2 weeks before its scheduled premiere. Number 19. Ash has used all of Team Rocket's main Pokémon, Arbok, Weezing, and Meowth. Which isn't fair, I consider Wobbuffet to be one of the main. Number 20. When Oak was younger, his main Pokémon was a Charmeleon. His grandson's starter choice was Squirtle, which is obviously strong against fire types. Number 21. Gary Oak, the grandson of Professor Oak, is based on the rival from Pokémon Red, Blue, and Yellow, and also Green if you're from Japan. Though not exactly the same, his clothes are similar to the rival in Red and Blue. Also, he's missing the snazzy jacket. Number 22. Because the game was made to match the anime more faithfully, Pokémon Yellow's rival is a much closer match to Gary's look. Number 23. In Yellow, the rival's starter is Eevee, to match the player having a unique starter. Since Yellow is largely based on the show, Gary himself also has an Eevee, but Eevee wasn't his starter Pokemon. Number 24, Gary is pretty accomplished. In the first season, he's shown with 10 badges, 2 more than you can even earn in the Kanto region. Of the badges he shows, only 3 are ones that we know of: the Cascade badge, the Boulder badge, and the Rainbow badge. So either he's been cheating this entire time, or Ash needs to up his game. Number 25, Gary's badges stand a good chance at being legit though, because contrary to the game, in the anime there are more than 8 gyms in each area, which means Gary could have gone on all kinds of exciting adventures to places we've never even heard of. Number 26, to make Gary even more impressive seeming, in episode 65 of the original series, Gary is shown to have caught over 200 Pokemon. That's 49 more Pokemon types than even existed at that point. Ash, what are you doing? You gotta step it up. Number 27, Ash and Gary are seemingly childhood rivals and friends, going from later episodes and the game they are based on. Despite this, when Gary meets Ash in the first episode, he states it's the first time they've met, which could just be because Gary is a massive tool. Number 28, Ash received Pikachu in a Pokeball, and as of the current series, that's the only time he's ever been seen in one. Number 29, since entering our lives in the late 90s, Pikachu has actually slimmed down considerably. Fans of my age would argue that the plumper version is even more adorable, but hey, good for him losing weight. Number 30, Pikachu has defeated 2 legendary Pokemon and was the first Pokemon to defeat a Mega Evolved Pokemon without Mega Evolving himself. I mean, yes, he's a very good Pikachu. I'm sure his IVs are through the roof, but he's still no Jolteon. Number 31. Even though it might seem random to most people, Pikachu's words can actually be translated. Most notably, he says Pika-P when referring to Ash, Pikachu-P for Misty, Pikachu for Brock, and P when addressing an unknown. Number 32. Pikachu is considered by many to be Japan's Mickey Mouse. According to certain academic circles, Pikachu's worldwide iconic status actually has a shot at eventually dethroning Mickey Mouse as the biggest pop culture icon, which is especially impressive since Pikachu just turned 20. Number 33, Togepi in particular is interesting, as it was one of the first Generation 2 Pokemon that was ever shown, the first one to be owned by someone, and the first one we knew the name of. Of course, she's not the first we saw. That distinction goes to Ho-Oh. Number 34, Togepi was the first Pokemon to hatch out of an egg, which makes sense, it's basically 80% egg. Number 35, since Togepi was born from an egg and not naturally caught, she's never shown having an owner's Pokeball. Misty simply carried it wherever she went. Number 36, Ash and Misty are hinted at having strong feelings for each other, but this is much more played up in an absolutely 90s-rific love ballad in which Misty sings about how much she loves Ash. Number 37, while Brock has repeatedly come back to be Ash's companion, former director and storyboarder Masamitsu Hidaka has stated there are no plans to ever bring Misty back as a regular companion. Number 38, though Brock doesn't have an official last name, his American voice actor Eric Stewart has stated in a 2006 interview that his last name is Harrison. Number 39, Misty's last name is never officially revealed either. It's speculated to be Waterflower, mostly because her name in Japanese is Kasumiyawa, and Yawa translates to Waterflower in English. Number 40, Jesse and James' names are based on the Old West gunslinger, Jesse James. The other Team Rocket's names are Butch and Cassidy, so the cowboy theme definitely holds. Except Giovanni. There's not a cowboy Giovanni as far as I know. Hey everyone, taking a quick break to let you know that Frederator's online store, Stash Right, is holding a $1,000 giveaway for buying all your plushies and t-shirts and whatever from your favorite cartoons. All that you need to enter is an email address. Contest rules apply and there's a link in the description below. Also, all shipping in the United States is totally free, and if you're outside the United States, Stash Right is taking $5 off the shipping costs. So go ahead and check them out now while you can. Number 41. No specific reason has been given for Jessie's signature hairstyle, but in some promo images it allows for her to make an R shape with her body. Number 42. Her hair was originally red, but in the changeover from traditional coloring to digital color, it transitioned to a more magenta color. It's subtle, but it's there. Number 43. Jessie's Wobbuffet, though it's never a main focus, is the third most consistent Pokemon in the series, appearing less than only Meowth and Pikachu. Number 44. Meowth is never seen inside of a Pokeball. Does this mean he could actually be wild? Number 45. Because of his unique status, Meowth is the only Pokemon to be a gym leader when Team Rocket was put in charge of Giovanni's gym. Number 46. In Japan, Lieutenant Surge's name is the Lightning American. Number 47. The Pokemon War Lieutenant Surge talks about was real. Producer Junichi Masuda says the war was a clash between two different countries. People treated Pokemon with special powers as mere tools in their conflict. They gathered lots of Pokemon and Pokemon with unique powers. This long conflict was drawn out and many lives were lost. Number 48. Though Koga, the Fuchsia City gym leader, has appeared in the anime, his daughter Janine never has, making her the only gym leader to be excluded from the series. Number 49. Blaine, the Cinnabar Island gym leader, uses a disguise that's likely a reference to the fact that he has had two official game designs. His incognito look has the sunglasses and mustache that he had in Pokemon Red and Blue, while his revealed look has no mustache and a receding hairline, much similar to how he looked in the original Japanese release of Pokemon Red and Green. Number 50. In the English dub of Pokemon, Mewtwo is the first Pokemon ever seen, as he is shown flying by in the intro sequence, but the Japanese opener saves Mewtwo for later, so Charizard gets the distinction. Number 51. In the United States, the first 8 seasons of Pokemon were dubbed and edited by 4Kids Entertainment, the same company that also oversaw the English versions of Yu-Gi-Oh! And One Piece. 4Kids has been at the center of controversy for heavily Anglicizing their series, though, believe it or not, Pokemon is one of their more lightly edited properties. Number 52. That doesn't mean that 4Kids didn't get their hands dirty. 4Kids passed off a number of Japanese festivals in the series as just happenings within the Pokemon world, most notably the Summer Festival, Kids Day, and the Princess Festival, all of which have real-life equivalents in Japan. Number 53. Another notable change revolved around Ninetales, who's based on the Kitsune, a mythical Japanese fox that can have, well, up to 9 tails, and turns white or gold when it earns its 9th tail, either through age, wisdom, or power. Older Kitsune can also shapeshift into humans, which poor Ninetales can't do. Number 54. Believe it or not, Magikarp also has its source in mythology. There's a Chinese legend that a carp that can jump over a waterfall can transform into a powerful dragon, like, say, Gyarados. This is especially intriguing when you consider that Magikarp's attack Splash is better translated as Hop. Number 55. One of the changes that fans did enjoy, however, was the inclusion of the infamous Poke Rap. Number 56. The rap was written by 4Kids series composer John Siegler in collaboration with R&B singer James D. Train Williams and rapper Baby Floyd. Siegler admits the rap is one of his least favorite pieces he wrote for the series, since it's not particularly musically interesting. Number 57. The only Pokemon missing from the Generation 1 Poke Rap is Mew, as when it was written, he wasn't widely known. Number 58. Similarly, because certain Pokemon did not appear until later in the series, they had to be replaced by the closest things. This includes Kabuto being represented by Bill dressed in a Kabuto costume, and Venusaur, Blastoise, Charizard, Raiden, Kabutops, and Zapdos being the gigantic robot versions of them from the episode The Island of Giant Pokemon. Number 59. There are a few errors in the early versions of the Poke Rap, including showing Poliwag when Poliwrath was mentioned, and showing Geodude during Graveler's segment. Number 60. The Pokemon anime isn't the only official depiction of the games released. They also released Pokemon Origins, a shorter mini-series that tells the story of Pokemon Red and Blue, from gaining their starter to fighting Mewtwo. Number 61. Does the Japanese voice of Red sound familiar? It's Junko Takeuchi, known for playing Naruto Uzumaki in Naruto. Number 62. The original plan for the third Pokemon movie revolved around the discovery of a Tyrannosaurus skeleton, which would abstractly deal with why no real-world animals exist in the world of Pokemon. The T-Rex fossil would come to life and have to be stopped by Ash and company. The film was rejected because the powers that be thought a story where a bunch of minerals gain consciousness and come back to life wouldn't be a hit, so I guess the powers that be have not seen Jurassic Park. Number 63. Shundo Takeshi, the chief writer of the original series and the writer of this scrapped third film, says that any appearance appearance of real-world animals in the series were due to animation staff not paying close enough attention. Number 64, Diglett has feet? In a mission for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, you have to save a Diglett that is hanging on the edge of a mountain. After saving it, the Diglett says he feels like his feet are still walking on air. Number 65, one perk of always being around water is that Misty has great lung capacity, as she has been able to spend extended amounts of time underwater during her performances at her gym. Number 66, Blastoise's original design didn't include the cannons coming out of his shell, which he still would have been awesome, and Squirtle would still have been the best starter. Number 67, in pre-alpha sketches, Torchic had floppy ears, which would make it a cute little bunny chicken thing instead of just a chicken thing. Number 68, Empoleon's name is based on Emperor and Napoleon, except in Japan where it's a combination of Emperor and Bonaparte. It's also 5'7", around the same height as Napoleon Bonaparte. Coincidence? I think not. Also, Napoleon wasn't that short. He was 5'2" by French feet in inches, which is larger than the standard unit. The whole short thing is a myth based around propaganda. Who said you wouldn't learn anything watching a Pokemon video? Number 69, Weedle was originally intended to follow the real-life growth cycle of a beetle. Beedrill won out because, according to designer Atsuko Nishida, it was simply cooler. Number 70, Machoke and Machamp aren't wearing pants. It may look like they have some serious tight shorts action happening, but it's really just part of their natural markings. Number 71, Pidgeot earned the ability to Mega Evolve because the game makers wanted to give Pidgeot the spotlight one more time, since it's a popular Pokemon and one that your rival uses in Red and Blue. Number 72, certain Pokemon didn't receive Mega Evolutions because creators felt Pokemon couldn't evolve further in terms of their design. So basically, they're just too perfect. Number 73, Mega Slowbro was created because designers asked, wouldn't it be interesting if Shelder was biting Slowbro's body and not just the tail? Number 74, Pichu was designed as the next Pikachu, but you can't replace Pikachu. Number 75, there's a popular theory that Gengar is Clefable's shadow, since the two have an eerily similar shape, and Gengar is just enough taller than Clefable to make a convincing shadow. He's officially listed as a shadow-type Pokemon after all. Aren't cartoon theories fun? Number 76, it's impossible for a Pokemon to have more than 2 types, but if you combined all 18 types in one Pokemon, it would still have one weakness, Rock. Number 77, it took Snorlax's sprite 17 years and 8 months to stand up. He got it by the 6th generation though. Better late than never. Number 78, Snorlax's Japanese name, Kabagon, is a play on words for sleep, snoring, and rest. Number 79, Tepig was designed to start off as cute enough to eat, but evolve to a point where it'd wind up eating you instead, which makes sense considering it starts as an adorable little piglet, then turns into a fiery Ganondorf-esque death machine. Number 80. We know that Charmander's tail needs to be kept lit so that it can live, but I think Spoink has it worse. He has to continuously bounce or its heart will stop. Number 81. Apparently it's completely possible for people to just turn into Pokemon if you're special enough. Beside that time, Ash turned into a Pikachu. Legend has it that a boy with extrasensory powers suddenly transformed into a Kadabra. Number 82. All Yamasks are also derived from people. They are the spirits of people interred in graves, and each one carries around a mask that resembles its face when it was a human and retains memories of its former life. Sometimes they look at the mask and cry. Number 83, Lampent is even darker. It's known to hang around hospitals waiting for people to die so it can use their spirits as fuel for its fire. Number 84, if you're a kid, you should probably avoid Drifloons. Kids unlucky enough to mistake it for a balloon tend to turn up missing. Oh yeah, they're also made up of the spirits of humans and Pokemon. Number 85, the Pokemon Banette is simply a plush doll that was thrown away, which came to life because it was that angry. It stalks around looking for the child that abandoned it. It's basically a horror story version of Toy Story. Number 86, a drawing of Banette was commissioned by Pokemon from famed horror manga author Junji Ito as part of a Halloween-related promotion called Cowabunga. Don't worry, Pokemon also allowed Ito to ruin Gengar for you. Number 87, in the original Pokemon Adventures manga series, Sabrina, Lieutenant Surge, and Koga are all members of Team Rocket. Number 88, in the same series, the Elite Four is an evil corporation that is trying to use the gym badges to power a laser that would wipe out humanity, except for a few people who are nice enough to their Pokemon. Number 89, Team Rocket did a rather unethical experiment on Moltres, Articuno, and Zapdos that combined them into one giant named Thufizer. It's like a legendary version of Dodrio. Number 90, Pokemon Red and Blue sprites were criticized for not looking enough like the art in the anime. You know, the anime that came out after the games were made. In response, Game Freak modified the sprites for Yellow to make them look more like the anime. Number 91, Ash has caught a starter from every region. Number 92, a musical stage show called Pokémon Live toured the US in the second half of 2000. If you haven't seen it, you missed it by 16 years. Number 93, the musical incorporated some songs from the show as well as plenty of new exclusive material. If you're promoting the fact that you missed this, you can still buy the cast recording titled Pokémon Gotta Catch 'Em All Live, featuring such hits as What Kind of Pokémon Are You, You and Me and Pokémon, and Brock's unforgettable Two Perfect Girls. Number 94, all 150 original Pokémon managed to make a cameo. All of them. I feel bad for the costumes and props departments on that show. Number 95, the musical also introduced Mecha Mewtwo, which is a robot owned by Giovanni. Number 96, famous MMA fighter Ronda Rousey is a massive Pokémon fan. She says she lost a ton of weight the summer she got Pokémon Blue because she wouldn't stop playing. Number 97, there is a Pokémon club at Cornell University where young hopefuls can battle members and try to become the Pokémon champion of Cornell. They focus on both the card and video games. Number 98, the Pokémon World Championships have been held in a different city every year, and with the number of players worldwide, I don't think they're worried about running out of cities. Number 99, on April 1st, 2014, Google had the cruelest April Fool's Day prank when they released a joke advertisement for an augmented reality version of Pokémon, along with an accompanying Google Maps game. Alongside the game, they also offered a job at Google with the official title of Pokémon Master for anyone who captured all 150. Number 100. Although the job offer was just a joke, 2.5 months later, in June of 2014, users who caught all 150 Pokemon were given official Pokemon Master business cards from Google. Also, you don't need all 150 Pokemon, you just need one. Jolteon for life! Number 101. Pikachu has been a staple of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade since 2000, making 16 consecutive appearances. Number 102. Pokemon is now in its 17th season, and all the series combined have over 800 episodes. So if you haven't been keeping up, you have some binge watching to do. Number 103. There have been over 260 million Pokemon games sold, and more than 21.5 billion cards shipped to 74 countries. The Census Bureau estimates that there are 7.4 billion people on Earth, so that's roughly 3 cards for every person on this planet. Number 104. In 2005, Pokemon the Park opened in Nagoya. Don't go buying a plane ticket though. The park was only a temporary traveling fair from March to September. Taiwan got it for a few months as well. Number 105. Don't cry though. Recently, Nintendo announced that Nintendo-themed attractions will be coming to Universal Studios theme parks. And while nothing specific has been announced, we all know a certain franchise that regularly partners with Nintendo. Number 106. One of the most recent Pokemon games released in Japan is Detective Pikachu, a simple point-and-click adventure game that wouldn't be terribly exciting if it weren't for the fact that it stars a talking Pikachu. But this Pikachu drinks coffee, is intelligent enough to solve mysteries, and is a womanizer. Number 107. To further augment how intriguing this game seems, at the time of writing, there is a petition on change.org with nearly 48,000 supporters for Danny DeVito to play Detective Pikachu in the English version of the game. And thanks to a fan video, it's already proved to be an amazing idea.
Everyone loves Pokemon, but not all Pokemon are loved equally. Hey, I'm Vincent, and today here on Cartoon Hangover, we're going to take you through our list of the top 12 underrated Pokemon from Generation 1. When I say underrated, I mean Pokemon that just never quite got the credit or popularity they deserve, taking into account a bit of everything. Character design, moves, some stats in the video games, and personality. Unfortunately, that means Farfetch'd just doesn't quite make the list. I mean, sorry, buddy, I love tiny little spring, onion, celery-wielding ducks as much as the next guy, but come on. Number 12, Magneton. Sometimes, Pokemon evolutions are simple. Take an existing Pokemon and put more faces on it. Diglett becomes Dugtrio, Doduo becomes Dodrio, and Clink becomes Clink Clang Clang Clink Clinker. Is that another face on that big gear? What the hell is this thing? Of all the multi-faced Pokemon, Magneton stands out above the rest. It's got pretty good speed and special attack in the video games. It totally looks like a sculpture made by a hipster art student, and as an added bonus, this cluster of magnets represents friendship and the importance of sharing your food. Remember in Pokemon Snap when 3 little Magnemites evolved because they were all eating the same apple? Oh. Number 11, Parasect. There are plenty of Pokemon horror stories out there, but back in Generation 1, we had something truly special in Parasect. It's a zombie. According to its Pokédex entry, Parasect is a host-parasite pair in which the parasite mushroom has taken over the host bug. Yowza! That's why Parasect has no pupils. It's a freaking zombie. Zombie Pokemon. Number 10. Golduck. Back when Pokemon was just starting to become popular and everyone was watching the first few seasons of the anime, Psyduck really made a name for itself. A big yellow duck that constantly has headaches, even on paper that makes for a funny, memorable character. So memorable, in fact, that people completely forget about its evolution. Golduck. This Pokemon has pretty decent stats all across the board and can learn a handful of Psychic-type moves despite it remaining a solid Water-type. We're talking about a blue duck with a smirk that seems to say, I know something you don't know, topped off with a freaking infinity stone in its forehead. Golduck, man. Number 9. Doduo, the wingless two-headed bird, is undeniably cute. With its two heads that don't always seem to agree, a ridiculous voice, and the fact that it's perhaps the most original-looking bird Pokemon of the first generation, it's not hard to imagine why we think Doduo is underrated. Number 8. Primeape. While it's not uncommon for a Pokemon to be difficult to catch and put up an occasional fight before being caught by a trainer, Primeape stands tall amongst its peers for being possibly the most stubborn, hard-to-catch Pokemon in Ash Ketchum's entire run as a Pokemon trainer. Refusing, time and time again, to simply accept its Pokeball prison, and even going so far as to steal Ash's trademark hat, Primeape makes this list because it's a fluffy ball of stubborn monkey rage, with the video game attack stat to mostly back that up. If Pokemon were real, Primeape would be both terrifying and very tempting to hug at the same time. Number 7. Muck. If a real-life Primeape would be terrifying, just imagine the nightmares a real-life Muck would give you. Muck is living sludge. Living, poisonous, amorphous sludge with a big drippy mouth and lifeless cold eyes. Imagine this thing turning a corner toward you as you're walking by an alleyway. Imagine it slipping beneath the crack under your bedroom door late at night as it cries out. Muck is underrated because it's the boogeyman of the Pokemon universe, and nobody seems to realize that. Number 6. Hypno. I know what you're thinking. Vincent, what could be scarier than the boogeyman of the Pokemon universe? My answer? The Freddy Krueger of the Pokemon universe, aka Hypno, a Pokemon who has yet to really hit mainstream attention for the serious walking creepypasta that it is. I'll give you 2 of its Pokédex entries from the video games. When it is very hungry, it puts humans it meets to sleep, then it feasts on their dreams. It carries a pendulum-like device. There was once an incident in which it took away a child it hypnotized. Oh, really, Hypno? Just once, huh?
That poor kid.
Number 5. Sandshrew has the whole package when it comes to pre-evolutions from a design standpoint, but it makes this list because of one particular episode of Pokemon's first season, The Path to the Pokemon League. In this episode, Ash meets AJ, a very different type of trainer from the hero we're used to. AJ and Sandshrew have a bond similar to Ash and Pikachu's, however his training methods are very different from Ash's. Using whips, tight bracing, and constantly commanding Sandshrew to dive into water, its natural weakness, this episode really presented some themes that made us think, even as kids. Was AJ's tough love type of training acceptable? Isn't this animal abuse? What could cause someone to be so hard on themselves and their friends? No answers to these questions are given, and AJ doesn't change his ways in the end. Ash and AJ part ways as unlikely friends. This episode really makes an impact, and because of it, along with its adorable armadillo-y appearance, Sandshrew should serve as a constant reminder of the incredibly dynamic relationships Pokemon can have with their trainers. Number 4. Weezing. Weezing is my personal favorite Pokemon of all time, which just might have something to do with it showing up on this list, but I can tell you why. Weezing has a very impressive defense stat in the games, and his character design's got this interesting blend of I'm gross, but also I'm appealing and helpless. I have no arms. Weezing has a Pokédex entry in Generation 3 that reads, by diluting its toxic gases with a special process, the highest grade of perfume can be extracted. Meaning Weezing is both a big, gassy purple balloon, as well as a floating metaphor that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Except when it comes to far-fetched. Number 3, Venusaur. Anybody who grew up with the first generation of Pokemon could recall a popular debate among Poke fans. Who's cooler, Blastoise or Charizard? Blastoise or Charizard? When going to buy the first Pokemon games outside of Japan, you had the choice between Pokemon Red, with a fire-breathing dragon on the front case of the game, and Pokemon Blue, featuring a burly turtle tank hybrid. 2 designs that were super easy to identify with as a young, aspiring Pokemon trainer. And then there was Venusaur, the dinosaur, frog, flower, plant thing, sitting on the other side of the room, never quite feeling cool enough for the cool kids' lunch table. Our leafy friend has a design that maybe seemed too complicated to kids at the time. This, coupled with the fact that it never landed a major role in the anime, leads Venusaur to being high up on our underrated list. Its lack of popularity shouldn't be mistaken for a lack of power, though. With stats arguably better than Blastoise's, a design that's more unique than its counterparts, and a super wicked cool holographic Pokemon card back in the day, Venusaur deserves more love. By the way, guys, remember Venustoise?
Try that on for size.
Number 2, Rattata. Pokemon fans that started back in Generation 1 will tell you, Rattata is synonymous with... It seemed like every 5 seconds, this totally useless rat would show up in the early routes of Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red, only serving to waste your time. But Rattata isn't all that bad. Ask yourself, would Pokemon be the same without it? Rattata made such a significant impact to the series that future Pokemon, like Zigzagoon and Bidoof, are referred to as the Rattata of their generations. Plus, Rattata evolves into Raticate, and with Raticate's move Hyper Fang, yikes, you could really start doing some damage. Number 1, Farfetch. I'm just kidding, it's Poliwhirl. It's Poliwhirl. Poliwhirl. This Pokemon makes the number 1 underrated spot because, quite honestly, it's difficult to figure out why Poliwhirl isn't way more popular than it is. And I'm talking Pikachu status popular. Its simple, huggable, friendly, derpy design seems like it should have sold billions of plush toys and skyrocketed Poliwhirl into mainstream level fame. For a hot second during Generation 1, it seemed like that might have happened, with Poliwhirl being featured beside Pikachu and Charmander in the Pokémon Center Tokyo logo, as well as showing up front and center on the cover of Time magazine. The rest of the Pokemon on this list are underrated for reasons that make sense. Muck and Weezing are gross, Hypno is scary, Primeape is too mad, but Poliwhirl? We love you, Poliwhirl. Maybe someday you'll win the hearts of the universe. Maybe someday you'll have a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. And maybe someday, if we're really, really, really lucky, Farfetch'd will be completely erased from the Pokédex.
So I don't know about you guys, but one of the highlights of my childhood was Pokemon. I played all the games and I collected all of the cards. But one thing I really remember was the anime. A lighthearted show with a positive message about capturing wild animals and then forcing them to fight each other. Now, to help me better understand this conspiracy better, I asked my good friend and fellow cartoon conspiracy expert, John, to help me out.
What's up, everybody? I am John. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. Emily, thank you so much for letting me take the reins with explaining this theory.
What if the protagonist of the show, Ash Ketchum, was actually in a coma the entire time?
After the first episode, the tone of the Pokemon series changes. This happens after Ash is in a biking accident and struck by Pikachu's lightning. Now, the reasoning behind this being believed is because after this traumatic incident in Ash's life, he is rushed to the hospital where he is treated with heavy medications, including sedatives and painkillers. And it's these heavy medications that cause Ash to fall into a coma. Supposedly, Ash's coma is the reason why his journeys after the first episode are able to cover such vast distances with really no difficulty at all. Team Rocket becomes less menacing and his physical appearance never really changes throughout the entire series. The coma is also the reason why throughout the rest of the series Ash never uses a bike again and why every town he visits has the same nurse, Nurse Joy, and same police officer, Officer Jenny.
The events of the Pokemon series do sound like every 10-year-old boy's dream. No school, no parents, getting to travel the world with your pets and your much older and much more attractive best friends. And despite not having a whole lot of training, you are somehow the best Pokemon trainer in the world. So could the events of the Pokemon series actually just be the comatose dreams of Ash Ketchum? No need to fear, Pokemon purists. This conspiracy runs into some flaws. First off, the alleged bike lightning accident happens in the very first episode. But Ash doesn't meet Team Rocket until the second episode. So it wouldn't make much sense for them to become less menacing if Ash had never met them in the first place. Also, Ash does use a bike again. In another episode of Season 1, Ash shows no fear of bikes and actually wanted one, but couldn't afford it. And, fun fact, the reason it seems like it's the same Nurse Joy in every town is actually because they're all related and Joy is their family name. And there are also several Officer Jennys in the Pokemon world. So while for the most part the Pokemon anime doesn't make much sense and its consistency is pretty questionable, there's enough evidence here to prove this conspiracy flawed. Actually, I would consider this more of an interpretation of the show as opposed to an actual conspiracy.
Calling this a fan interpretation really hits the nail right on the head. One of the key elements to a good conspiracy theory is that it can change the entire tone of the show and, as a result, change the viewing experience for the audience. Ultimately, Ash being in a coma really doesn't change the tone of the series that much, and honestly, it can be forgotten after the first couple of episodes. In the end, whether it's all a dream or not, the show ends up being virtually the same and gives the audience the same impression that it intends to.
And if we've learned anything from these cartoon conspiracies, it's that some people just enjoy ruining other people's childhoods. So while the anime may have some consistency problems, the arguments given for the Ash in a coma conspiracy just don't add up. So on the plausibility meter, I give the Pokemon conspiracy 1.5 Togepi's out of 5.
This February, Pokémon celebrated its 20th anniversary, which may feel weird for those of us who remember getting our hands on Pokémon Red or Blue, spoiler alert, the cool kids got Blue, when it first came out. But the popularity of these little pocket monsters hasn't waned at all since then, spawning a small battalion of video games, nearly 20 movies, a wildly popular card game, and a TV show that served as a staple for many a childhood. So, to celebrate 20 years of Pokémon, today on ChannelFrederator we're counting down the 12 best moments from the series, and some of the movies too. Let's get started. Number 12, James buys a Magikarp. Poor decision making was a character hallmark of Team Rocket, but few moments in the series highlighted this more than when James is conned into buying Magikarp. Even though the salesman was awkwardly racist, the dramatic irony of the audience knowing that Magikarps are totally worthless made James's optimism and inability to sense anything fishy absolutely hilarious. In the Route 4 Pokemon Center, in the original Red and Blue versions, you could buy a Magikarp in similar fashion. Though if you're better than James, you know to send it straight to daycare and rare candy that sucker to level 20. See how much of a scam it is then. Anyways, needless to say, when James tries to use the Magikarp in battle, he finds himself floundering. Okay, we're done with the fish puns. You feel bad when he kicks the Magikarp though. It's not its fault it battles like a fish out of water. Number 11, the origin of Mewtwo. After a couple of seasons of haphazard villains, the rise of Mewtwo was a refreshing change of pace. Finally, a villain that was the cause for legitimate concern. And yet, as unequivocally evil as Mewtwo turned out, his origins humanize him to an unexpected degree. Once we learn that Mewtwo was in a lab without knowing who or where he was, and see how all his friends die right before his eyes, suddenly we feel bad for Mewtwo. The story has some actual depth too, as a warning about a man corrupting the course of nature for the sake of greed and power, in addition to putting an unforgettable spin on one of the most formidable villains in Pokemon history. Number 10, Mirage Mew's Sacrifice. In the 10th anniversary special of Pokemon, Ash and Pikachu must battle a holographic but equally deadly version of Mewtwo, and as we've learned by this point in the series, going against Mewtwo on your own is basically a death sentence, especially if you're Ash and you're not very good at what you do. Thankfully for our heroes, a Mirage Mew intervenes and sacrifices itself to subdue the Mewtwo so Pikachu can destroy it. Watching the Mew heroically dissolve into non-existence can only be met with a heavy heart, but on the bright side, fans got to witness a tiny, non-evolved Pokemon take down the most formidable in history. Number 9, Growly. For many, the optimal human-Pokemon relationship is epitomized by Ash and Pikachu, but James has again and again proven himself to be surprisingly compassionate, capable of developing deep relationships with his Pokemon, and his bond with his childhood Growlithe, adorably nicknamed Growly, is perhaps one of the most touching relationships in the whole series. Anyone who had a rough childhood, like James did, can tell you that a relationship with a pet can grow incredibly strong during that period, which is why James's backstory and the necessity for him to leave Growly twice is the incredibly dangerous combination of both heartbreaking and relatable. Number 8, the many Nurse Joys and Officer Jennies. You may have noticed in the Pokemon video games that the police officers and nurses are stock characters, so you could easily identify them in any given city. When it came time to make the anime, the animators decided to keep all the nurses and officers as identical stock characters, quickly making Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny one of the show's best running gags. The only explanation the characters offer is that they are related to one another. It's also one of the best meta phenomenon in the anime, and fans are obsessed with creating clone theories. Number 7, Metapod versus Metapod. If you ever played the games and you were an impatient person, you probably never took the time to train a Metapod, which is probably why you beat the Elite Four and Ash never has. Still, one of the worst Pokemon can lead to the most intense fight when facing a trainer who also sends out a Metapod. What's a Metapod to do except harden? Who can harden the hardest? Who can become the most... Okay, we're not gonna touch that one. Point is, the battle literally lasts all afternoon, and no one really ends up winning, but it's a hilarious illustration of how straight up silly some Pokemon are. And really, the only Pokemon sillier is Spoink. It has to keep jumping or it dies. Number 6, Jigglypuff gets mad. Everyone knows that Jigglypuff's signature move is Sing, and how that haunting melody is guaranteed to put your enemy, and anyone else within earshot, to sleep. Even though this is usually a brilliant strategy, Misty's Jigglypuff loves singing so much that it will close its eyes as it performs, and then is understandably upset when it realizes that its song has induced snores instead of applause. So what does Jigglypuff do? What any angry musician does when people don't pay attention to their music. It draws on the audience faces. This is especially excellent when Jigglypuff puts on a concert in a town square and, predictably, puts everyone to sleep. Jigglypuff must work the whole night to exact its revenge on an entire town. Maybe more bands should try this tactic if anyone's using their phone during a concert. Number 5, Meowth's backstory. Team Rocket's Meowth spends most of the Pokemon series spitting sarcasm and sassy one-liners, which are a delight, but when one considers that he's one of the select few Pokemon who has full command of language, it becomes clear that there was more to Meowth than meets the eye. So it was a welcome gesture when the show finally hit us with Meowth's backstory, but boy, it was a doozy. Poor Meowth was abandoned as a baby and was always starving, and so he moves to Hollywood for ice cream and fried chicken. You know, the usual reasons people move to Hollywood. The story only gets sadder from there, revealing that he learned to walk and talk for the love of a she-Meowth who eventually just called him a freak. Who among us hasn't learned an entirely different language for love? Te espero, mi amor. It gave us a depth to a character that most shows would have left one-dimensional. It's still never explained why he has a Jersey accent, though. He and Joey Wheeler should really talk about that. Number 4, Red defeats Mewtwo. Pokemon Origins was something a lot of people always wanted to see. A telling of the story of the first games in anime form, where the protagonist was capable and Pikachu was underpowered at best. It's awesome, and it caps itself off in one of the most climactic battles in any young trainer's life, facing off against Mewtwo. Where the first movie chooses to explore the existential crisis of a Pokemon grown in a lab and how that might make a supervillain, the Pokemon Origins fight is content to capture the spirit of the battle itself. A level 70 demigod versus you and your best team of 6. It's every bit as fierce as your childhood mind made it out to be. Mewtwo levels an Articuno with a single attack. Everything here is a well-choreographed testament to the original fight that blends in some of the new games with the featuring of a Mega Evolution. Number 3, Butterfree leaves Ash forever. Metapod wasn't content to just take up one spot on this list. The evolved form of the Pokemon gets a well-deserved encore. Pokemon had its fair share of tear-jerking moments, and everyone felt this softer side of the series when Ash realizes his Butterfree wants to start a family and sets him free. The tears and feelings shared between both Pokemon and owner is enough to make almost any audience member cry. The scene is a reminder of how life can drift us apart against our wishes. Number 2, the Squirtle Squad. Here Comes the Squirtle Squad was one of the most popular episodes of the original anime. Watching a gang of delinquent Squirtles terrorize our heroes and Team Rocket for the hell of it was an absolute delight. And it was clear the show's writers had a ball with them as well. working in as many cowboy and battle references as possible, as well as supplying the squad with ample opportunity to laugh in people's faces. And their sunglasses were so stylish. As far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest Pokemon mysteries is why Ash's Squirtle didn't keep the shades. I think we can all agree we could have stood a lot more Squirtle Squad in the series. And number 1, Pikachu crying. Pikachu emerges as the first movie's pacifist hero. Ash is turned to stone in an attempt to stop Mewtwo and Mew from fighting, and Pikachu's compassion towards his master puts everyone else to shame. Before even Misty or Brock can run over, Pikachu is there, shaking Ash and trying desperately to revive him. And when that doesn't work, the waterworks come. And so we all learn that Pikachu crying is the saddest sight ever. No one wants to see something that adorable cry. Fortunately for our childhood memories, the tears pay off and Ash is revived. But in a series supposedly about mastering and training Pokemon, Pikachu's display of devotion is arguably the most heroic and heartbreaking gesture in franchise history.
I'm Alyssa, and this is my own personal theory of how I believe that Team Rocket isn't actually as bad as they seem. I grew up watching Ash and Pikachu go on multiple adventures, collecting new Pokemon, meeting new friends, and thwarting Team Rocket's plans. Wondering what Jesse, James, and Meowth had planned for how they were going to steal Pikachu was a highlight for me for every episode. Since the first episode they appeared in 1998, Pokemon Emergency, the nefarious trio came blasting into our lives and have been following Ash and Pikachu since because they have seen the power that Pikachu is truly capable of. With this power, the trio wants to capture Pikachu and hand it over to Giovanni, the boss of Team Rocket, to help with his ultimate goal, taking over the world! But what if the Team Rocket we grew to love doesn't want to actually aid in Giovanni's master plan? What if they are purposely letting their schemes fail because they actually care about Pokemon and the world around them? We know that Jesse, James, and Meowth aren't exactly the best at capturing Pokemon. They have gone to Giovanni countless times as failures, and he has called them incompetent fools. So why do they continue to work for him? Mind you, they aren't oblivious to their lack of success, and they often comment on it throughout the series. So let's first break down Giovanni's master plan. In the anime series, he wants to capture rare types of Pokemon to aid him in world domination. In the Pokemon Origin series, he says that he needs Pokemon to aid him in his tools of business. This was also seen in the Pokemon Island episode, where Jesse, James, and Meowth, along with Ash and the gang, destroyed all the giant mechanical Pokemon that were at the theme park. And who owned this island? Giovanni himself. Some may even believe that Team Rocket was basically the Pokemon Mafia. Now back to Jesse, James, and Meowth. There's some examples that show the beginning of how they start to care for Ash and Pikachu, even though their ultimate goal is to capture Pikachu in every single episode. In the episode Electric Shock Showdown, when Team Rocket is spying on Ash and Pikachu through the Pokemon Center window, after they see that Pikachu lost the battle against Lieutenant Surge's Raichu, they see that Pikachu has a lot of confidence, and Ash accepts its decision not to use a Thunderstone to evolve into a Raichu. This enlightens the team, and they even go to cheer them on during Ash's next battle. They've also saved Ash's life on multiple occasions throughout the movies. In the second movie, Pokemon the Movie 2000, The Power of One, they sacrifice themselves to allow Ash to escape on Lugia. In Pokemon 3, the movie Entei, the Spell of the Unknown, they save Ash from a deadly fall. These bad guys aren't good at being bad, but they also aren't that bad at all. Aside from their schemes to steal Pikachu, Team Rocket has shown to care for other Pokemon's well-being. In the episode Sweet Baby James, James's chime Echo becomes ill, so James goes off and tries to find a Pokemon Center. While wandering through the forest, he comes across a mansion, which he realizes is one of his childhood vacation homes. Remember, James is filthy rich! He goes inside the mansion and finds out that his grandparents are staying there. He doesn't tell them that he's a part of Team Rocket in fear that they may be disappointed in him. So even though he works for an organization that treats Pokemon as objects for world domination instead of living creatures, James still has a heart. Moving on to Jessie, we learn in Ignorance is Blissey that Jessie wanted to become a nurse at some point in her life. She wanted to go to school to learn how to help injured and sick Pokemon. Last time I checked, nurses care for others. Oh, and Jessie, you aren't a joy, so how did you think this was gonna work? As far as we know about Meowth, the only reason why he learns how to walk and talk like a human is to impress a female Meowth named Meowsy. He cared about her so much that he was willing to change himself and go above and beyond for her. When the trio first became a team in the Pokemon Chronicles episode Training Days, they learned that if they wanted to be the best Team Rocket they can be, they have to care about each other and work together to be successful. How does this compare to other Team Rocket members? Well, for starters, in the anime, we only see Team Rocket grunts, but we also meet Cassidy and Biff.
The name's Butch, not Biff.
These two seem to only strictly follow Giovanni's orders, and were ranked as villains in training in their first test versus just regular Team Rocket agents. Cassidy and Butch are shown to be bad guys when they're on screen with Jesse, James, and Meowth, and I always root for the trio when they're up against them. Jesse, James, and Meowth really care for friendship and one another, even though that may not be what they want Giovanni to know. He could try to swim up if they saw that their friendship was compromising his ultimate goal of world domination. Maybe that's the real reason why they refused to return to him without Pikachu. I mean, if your boss had a dream, would you want to crush it? Nope, not me. So, how does this really hold up? When it comes to a successful plan, Team Rocket wants to go along with the whole ideal of taking over the world on Giovanni's behalf. The trio was claimed by false reports that they alone disbanded Team Galactic, Team Aqua, and Team Magma. After that, Giovanni promoted them, and the team started to become less goofy and more serious about their missions. They seem to be happy that Giovanni was giving them assignments straight from headquarters, so it appears that they don't want to stop his plans. In the Best Wishes series, there was a time where Meowth was starting to travel with Ash and the gang. He stated he was fired from Team Rocket and wished to follow Ash on his adventures. But of course, it was later revealed that Meowth was actually betraying Ash and his friends to get close to Pikachu. As proof that Team Rocket has different goals than Giovanni, it's shown through some segments called Boss Fantasies. With glances into their imagination, Meowth suggests practical uses for the Pokemon that they wish to steal for Giovanni. For example, Psyduck can stop a brain freeze, Ralts can put him to sleep when he's restless, Moltres can make a hot spring at home, and even a Chat-Tot can hold conversations with him when he's reading the morning paper. Also, when it comes to following Ash and Pikachu around this whole time, Team Rocket has claimed that they would be out of business if anything were to happen to Ash. They need to help him whenever they can. Being that this is my theory, I can't really rate it because there might be some holes that need to be filled. But I really want to know what you think. Leave some comments below if you agree or disagree with my theory. What evidence do you have? I really want to see what you guys post. Thank you for watching this episode of Cartoon Conspiracy. If you have a theory, let us know. And also, subscribe to ChannelFrederator for more. I'm Alyssa, and I hope to see you soon.